go. Starting the show off with a little bit of Down, a little bit of Bury Me and Smoke. That's a shout out to my Hogs for the Cause barbecue team. We are Team Bury Me and Smoke at Team BMIS on Twitter if you'd like to follow us. Welcome everybody to NOLA Food Podcast number 12. Today on the show we have Pitmaster Steve Gibbs from Fort Mill, South Carolina. It's our first Skype interview. Went very well. We're going to be talking to him a little bit about smoke and how the rest of America views New Orleans foods. A little reminder this weekend, the Blues and Barbecue Fest is going on in Lafayette Square. Got a lot of friends out there doing some barbecue, so y'all go out there and support them. We're going to be at the Avenue Pub this Sunday and Monday. This Sunday we have a Sioux Run Farms lamb shank special, and we are doing a lamb offal demi-glace with that, with some roasted fall vegetables. So y'all come taste some NOLA Q and eat some local food and support a small local business. Here we go with the show. Test something on your end?
Yeah.
Check.
I can hear you.
All right. We're looking good on this side, so.
Cool.
All right. We'll go ahead and start it up. Hey, y'all. Welcome to NOLA Food Podcast. Today we have Steve Gibbs on. He's a barbecue blogger and a part-time pitmaster and a father. He's in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and we're going to be talking to him today a little bit about smoking and some other people's views on New Orleans food. So welcome, Steve.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
I would like to say this is our first Skype interview, so y'all bear with us. We're working with the internet and everything. Everything's looking good so far, so we should be able to carry through the podcast with no problem. If there is an issue, we'll just transfer over to the phones and do it old school.
Sounds good.
So what got you into smoking, Steve? What got you started barbecuing?
Oh, see, I've lived down here in the South for 15 years, and, you know, I like barbecue, but then a friend of mine was smoking actually up at it used to be Blues, Brews, and Barbecues. Now it's just Blues and Barbecue. And here in Charlotte, and he asked me to help him out. So I'm like, sure, I'll help you out. I'll spend the night and keep the fire going. Well, after that, I ate some of it, and I was like, okay, this is the real stuff. I gotta learn how to do this.
What kind of wood were y'all using?
What kind of wood?
Mm-hmm.
Mixture of hickory and oak.
Is that usually prevalent around there, and that's what y'all use?
Yeah, we usually use a lot of hickory around here in the Carolinas.
Down here, it's a lot of pecan. I guess I think it's real regional on a lot of that stuff. In Texas, mesquite.
Yeah. We also use peach wood, and I've actually started using apple wood and pecan wood, and I just like the nutty fruitiness of it.
I think fruit wood actually gives you a nicer smoke ring also, I found. I did some research, and it's actually a chemical process that happens with the fruit woods, your apples, your cherries, your stuff like that gives you a deeper smoke ring. So I hope I'm not telling all my secrets.
Now, it's interesting because over just down the road from us, there's a peach orchard.
Right.
And one of these days, I'm going to find out who actually runs it and talk to them and see if I can get their peach wood.
Yeah,
every year they cut it down.
Myron Mixon, I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah, right.
He's kind of famous in barbecue. He he solely uses Georgia peach from what I read, and he won't even put anything else in his pit. So that's kind of cool too.
And he uses green Georgia peach, from what I understand.
Oh, okay.
Or it might be a combination of the two, but I'm like,
right.
Who uses greenwood?
Yeah, he does a lot of things that just are against all the rules. You know, he uses charcoal lighter fluid to start his pits. You know, he's truly a rebel in barbecue. I think he's one of those guys that, yeah, everybody else has rules and stuff like this. Shit on the rules. I got stuff to do. You know, I'm not gonna wait 2 hours for a chimney to get hot, and he's like, you burn it all off and you're good to go.
It seems to work.
Yeah, he's a 3-time world champion or whatever it is. Yeah, I think he pretty much has it down. What are some of your childhood memories cooking?
Oh gosh, earliest one is learning how to make pancakes when I was 5.
Okay. 5 years old. That's pretty young.
Well, every morning I'd wake up and I'm like, "Hey, Mom, I want pancakes for breakfast." And she's like, "It's 6 a.m. Go back to bed." So finally she decided, "I'll teach you how to turn on the frying pan, show you how to make the batter, and have at it."
Nice.
So that was, I guess, my first introduction. And then after that, I just started playing with food.
Right. What do you do in your real life?
My real life, I'm actually a graphic designer.
The graphic designer. So,
yes.
Were you ever in kitchens coming up, growing up, cooking at all?
Well, my mom was a home ec teacher.
Ooh, wow.
So
that's interesting.
When I was 4 and 5, sometimes I'd sit with her in her class. Now, mind you, I grew up in Africa.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
So I was actually born in Nigeria.
Okay.
And grew up in West Africa, and my mom taught at a school over there. So when I was 4 and 5 years old, I'd go to class with her sometimes. And you just kind of, I think I just absorbed stuff.
Right.
So, growing up, I just kind of sat around and learned how to cook from her. I'd help her out in the kitchen and do things, it's like, "Hey, Mom," and everything's from scratch. So it's like, "Hey, Mom, how do you make whatever?" "Oh, that's too hard. We're not going to make that."
So she was a teacher in America, and then she went over there to teach over there?
Well, my dad was a pastor. My mom was a teacher, and they taught over. He's also a teacher too, so they taught at a school over there. And then when I was 16 months old or so, my dad actually passed away in a train accident over in West Africa, and my mom came back home for a year and then went back out with 5 kids to a boarding school where she taught on the staff there.
Wow.
So,
well, what a great way to grow up, man! All the different foods and all the different cultures you must have seen had to be very amazing. So then you come back to America and you set up in South Carolina.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And
how old were you then when you came back to America?
About 15.
About 15. Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's one of those things. All my friends were like, "Oh man, I can't be single. I can't cook." And I'm sitting there going, "What's wrong with you guys? It's not that difficult."
Right. I grew up with a single mom, and my parents, my stepdad, and my mom both worked a lot. So you get hungry, and you don't have people there to cook for you. So I learned how to cook out of just a means to sustain myself.
Yep.
It's either do it or stay hungry. So I learned how to cook eggs, and I started watching cooking shows, The Frugal Gourmet, stuff like that. I tried to teach myself, because I was hungry.
Remember Jan Can Cook?
Jan Can Cook, yep.
Yeah, I used to watch that.
If Jan can cook, so can you.
Oh, marvelous!
He would get those 2 knives going, man. He'd just chop, 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 chop. And I never understood that. If you did that in a professional kitchen, they would kick you out. You know what I'm saying? But I guess if it's Jan's kitchen, he can do what the fuck he wants to do. So, back to barbecue. Your first trying with it was helping your friend out, and that kind of planted the seed in you?
Yeah. That planted the seed, and then I started going to different competitions with him and just helping him out and, help him prep the butts and the brisket, the ribs, and just kind of learned from that. And he saw that I really liked it, so he ended up giving me Dr. Barbecue's Big Time Barbecue Cookbook.
I know the book, yes.
So it's a great book.
Mm-hmm. Yep. My mother-in-law gave it to me.
So I read through that, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I could do this." And then I'm sitting there going, "Okay, I need to get a smoker." And I'm sitting there thinking, "Okay, what kind of smoker am I going to get?" And my friend called me up. He goes, "Hey, I'm not using my old smoker. You want it?"
Wow.
I'm like, "Do dogs bark?"
What kind of smoker was it?
It was a little charbroil, I think it is.
Offset.
And offset. And you could fit maybe 3 pork butts on it. Possibly 4.
Right.
Now, you could fit 4 because you could fit 2 turkeys in it.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I smoked on my own was a turkey. And it was Thanksgiving, and my wife goes, I want to smoke a turkey. And she goes, I don't know about that. We'll get 2 turkeys. I'll do one in the oven, and you smoke one.
Just in case.
Okay. The smoke one was gone.
Right.
Nothing left. The roasted one sat around for a while.
It was the leftovers. Did you brine it or anything before you smoked it?
Yep.
Yeah. I think that really helps out, especially with poultry and stuff. The whole osmosis, getting some flavors into that meat. And for some reason, those breasts are really dense, and they don't take a lot of flavor. And unless you brine it, I find that they dry out too.
Yeah. And I've never had a problem with them. They've always come out nice and moist and just so good.
Do you finish the whole thing on the pit, or do you throw it in the oven all the way on the pit? Wow.
I do it all the way on the pit. And when I was reading about it, I'm like, okay, this is going to take like 6 or 7 hours to do this. Because, they give you the time for every pound of meat. It's a half hour or whatever. Well, I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm in for 7 hours. So I started it. We're going to eat around 1. So I started it at 4 or 5.
Right.
The thing was done by 9. I'm like, okay, this ain't no 7 hours.
Right. Yeah, those thermometers really help you out, man. You gotta use those with barbecue. You can't really do a lot of guessing with that stuff. So the fire kind of got into your soul, huh? You like playing with fire and the passion.
Oh yeah, it's hard day work. You come home, you fire up the grill, throw chicken breast or hamburgers or steak, whatever on, and you kick back and have a bottle of beer, glass of wine, whatever, and just sit in the backyard and enjoy it.
Right. Yeah, that's what kind of pushed me to go into the whole barbecue thing. And down here in NOLA, we weren't ever really known for barbecue. It's all about seafood and stuff like that. And there was a big hole before the storm. Since then, there's been some places that have come up. The Joint's something that's nationally known and stuff like that. But nobody was really doing just that good southern kind of barbecue down here. Looking from as an outsider, looking towards New Orleans, what do you think some of the feelings are with people outside of New Orleans towards New Orleans culinarily?
I think a lot of people just see it more as like Creole Cajun style cooking.
Right.
And that's good, but I know I watch a lot of Food Network and Travel TV, and I think it was Andrew Zimmern's show. What is it called?
The one where he eats all the weird shit.
Yeah. He did one. I think it was him. He did one down in New Orleans, and he went to some jazz guy's place, and it looked like he had a Lang sitting out front, smoking ribs and sausage and whatever else he wanted to put on there. And I'm sitting there going, I got to go there. That looks good.
That's Kermit Ruffkins, and he does music down here. He's a trumpeter, and he also does the barbecue swingers.
Yeah.
So he'll play your show, feed your people, and he collects all the cash. He's a really really great guy. He's really smart and interesting. It's kind of like what I'm doing as a pop up. He just kind of, has it encompassed in the catering and also does the entertainment. I don't think people would want to hear me sing or play the trumpet. I think they'd run me out of town, probably.
Just stick with the cooking.
Yeah, I'll stick with the meat and stick with the New Orleans Q. And that's what we're trying to do around here, is try to go a little bit back to local and try to bring some of that local flavor into barbecue and try to bring a regionality. Memphis is known for their barbecue. Carolinas are known for their barbecue. St. Louis, Texas. And we're at the funnel of all that at the base of the Mississippi. So what I've been trying to do is use some of those St. Louis techniques. I have burn-ins on my menu. Trying to do a really good brisket. And that's something around here in the South, it's all pork. Pulled pork, pork shoulder, hocks, boudin, and stuff like this. So when people see that we have brisket on the menu and we're actually able to slice it, and it's not dead, a lot of people, when you try to slice it, if it gets past that 200 mark, it just falls apart.
Right.
And some people call that tender, but that's you fucked up. you overcooked it somewhere. I'm not sure how the Carolinas feel about ribs, but I'm really particular about ribs. They shouldn't slip off the bone.
No.
You should be able to bite it and see the mark. You've
you
done
get
enough
that nice watermelon.
Right, you've done enough competitions to know that's what people are looking for. But some guests, when we're dealing with them, these aren't as tender as my mama's because she puts them in the oven for 6 hours, and then to me
boils them.
That's pulled pork. Speaking of boiled ribs, that was my first introduction to barbecue. Back to my mom, wasn't the greatest cook in the world, so she would get the country spare ribs at Schwegmann's at the time and go home and boil them, put the Kraft sauce out of the jar on them, and then put them in the oven. And that was my taste of ribs. When I tasted my first rib, my really, really first rib, it was incredible. And I'm going to tell you where it was, and you might have eaten there, a place called Sonny's Barbecue.
Yep.
They had them a lot in Florida.
They're all over here.
They are doing real pit barbecue. And I've eaten there a lot, and sometimes it's hit, sometimes it's miss.
Yeah.
But what's great is you can go there and you can get the all-you-can-eat ribs with the sides and the 82-ounce tea for $10.99, and have some actually really good barbecue.
Yeah. Now, and I live right near Charlotte, North Carolina,
which is a lot like Louisiana in the architecture and a lot of the food.
Yeah. Well, in Charlotte, there was no barbecue for the longest time. It's like people go, "Oh, Charlotte, that's not a barbecue city. Where are you going to find barbecue there?" Well, probably in the past 2 years, we started to have some good, solid barbecue restaurants start popping up. And it's like, oh, you want to go barbecue? Go here or go here. I haven't tried this place, but I hear it's really good. And, you start, I have another friend in the area who blogs also. And he's like, oh, have you tried this place? I'm like, no, I haven't tried that place yet. I want to try it. Have you tried this place? And he's like, oh, no, I haven't tried that place. So, but it's starting to grow.
Yeah, maybe barbecue's making a comeback just all over the place. That would be really exciting. No. and Mr. Myron, I think that helped out. Speaking of Pitmasters, have you watched the seasons?
Oh yeah,
I like the first season the best. I think that was a great behind the scenes look at it, and it wasn't so much of the Iron Chef barbecue competition bullshit. I mean, that has its place, but I really I learned a lot in that first season.
Yeah, well,
watching them do the pigs and stuff.
The third season, the most recent one, I like that format also better than the second season. Second season was just no.
Yeah.
But the third season, it was interesting just to watch because they did have a little bit of a curveball because they weren't sure what they were cooking. But at the same time, it was interesting just to see how they pulled off something. And either Trig is playing everyone and he doesn't know what fatback is, or but that was one of my favorite episodes. Just sitting there watching him, going, "Okay, what is this thing? What do I do with it?"
He is. Speaking of ribs, that man, what he does with ribs. I've never eaten it, but I've read a lot of stuff, and the dude just has it down.
He does.
He said he likes his ribs with just a little salt and pepper and smoke. If he was just going to eat ribs, I thought that was a cool way to do it. And I've tried that, and it's you really just get the meat and the smoke, and not so much of the rub or anything.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because some of the competitions we do here or have done, we've gone up against Tuffy and Trig.
Oh, okay.
Some of those other guys, and it's like, oh wow. In fact, we were lucky enough to beat Tuffy at one competition, so
wow.
We're like, yeah.
That's awesome. I'm doing my first barbecue competition this March. got a team together, Team Bury Me and Smoke, and they have the Hogs for the Cause competition down here every March, and it helps out pediatric brain cancer here in New Orleans. It's a really good charity work. Do you have any advice for upcoming team? First challenge. Is there any potholes that I could maybe not step in a pile of shit with?
Practice. Yeah. I've had people tell me, and since I have never run the team, I wouldn't know this, but practice and stay outside cooking with everything you think you'll need, and write down the things that you forgot. So it's like, oh crap, I forgot my knife. It's like, that's important. Yeah. I can just run inside and get it. No, you got to figure out how to do it without it. Wow.
Cool. I'll definitely do that.
But I'm also a certified KCBS judge. So people always ask me, how do you do that? Well, you go to a class and it's not that difficult. It's fun. You get free barbecue. Hey, you can't lose. But then they go, so what do you look for? I'm like, cook it like you like to eat it, because I want to know what you like, but I also know what I like. So you got to go for that tenderness, but you also have to go for a good flavor throughout.
Yeah, that's something I noticed on Pitmasters, that they would change their rub in a particular area, or they would try something else because they were in a certain area. And right. I was like, man, my rub's my rub. I wouldn't even want to try to experiment.
If it's good here, it's good there.
Yeah, I'm not going to throw some lemon pepper in it because I'm in California or whatever. That's just my rub.
Throw some tofu on there.
I have had some smoked tofu. That's not that damn bad.
But, yeah, but judging is fickle. Mm. And speaking from a competition side, some days, you'll have the best, what you think is your best rib, your best butt, your best brisket, whatever. The judges taste it, and they're like, no, that's not good. Mm. And it's like, okay, where did I miss? How is it not good? And I know there's times when I'll taste one rib on one end of the rack, taste another one on the other end, and you have two different flavors. So, sure. And it's just the meat. Yeah.
And towards one end, it's a little thinner, so it's going to take that rub a little more, and it's going to be a little drier. And I think that's why they take those center ribs. Yeah. They'll do 4 or 5 racks and just take those perfect ribs. I've seen a lot of people use the electric knife and stuff like that so they can get it perfect.
Oh yeah.
I've never needed that.
I like the electric knife when cutting because it's much easier. Right.
So when you were judging, have you had just some real shit barbecue that came across the table?
Yeah.
And you're just like, what?
I've had some where you put it in your mouth and it's just like mush. Mm. And you're just like, and you're trying to find a napkin, spit it in there. Oh, Lord. Or they over smoke it. Mm. So you get that it's kind of a kerosene taste, a gas taste.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Almost acrid taste.
Yeah. Yeah. It tastes like lighter fluid almost.
Yeah, probably didn't let it burn off or whatever.
Well, usually it's because it's over smoked and that they don't get that thin blue smoke or thin white smoke?
Thin blue.
Thin blue smoke, yeah. It's been a long day, sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. This is podcast 2 for me, so it's been a long one over here.
So they'll sit there and throw it on while it's still billowing white smoke, and it picks up all that grossness from it.
Right. It's almost my friend Larry Bro. He's on my barbecue team, and he calls it the yellow shitty smoke. So, and I think that comes from what I found, and I smoke almost every day. Is when when you actually don't have a flame in your box. The wood's just kind of sitting there smoldering, and a lot of people, I was reading wet their wood and stuff like that. I've just found that just dry, burning wood gives you the best taste.
Oh, yeah. Because, like you said, the wet smoke just sits there and smolders, and it doesn't work well.
And it's a trial and error thing, especially with barbecue. You know, I'm still, to this day, I've been barbecuing professionally now for over a year. And not one of my butts has turned out the exact same as another butt. It is a constant challenge with wind, weather, wood, the type of wood that you're getting, the pit. There's all these variables that can fuck you up with barbecue, and a lot of people fall into those pitfalls and overcook or oversmoke, and it's not a fight of just trying to get as much flavor. It should be a dance of subtle kissing of smoke and subtle sweetness and salt, and how those things balance and work with each other. I think that's the magic of barbecue.
It's not rocket science.
Right.
I mean, people ask me, how hard is barbecue? I'm like, it's not that hard. It's fire, meat, inside a container.
No, time.
You get some smoke. Now, the hard part comes balancing that and putting the right rub on, or, figuring out what rub you like, and then figuring out, okay, when do I take it off? How do I control the heat on the pit so it stays at a 230, 250, whatever you want to cook at, and how do you maintain that from when you first put on the meat until you pull it off 8, 10, 12 hours later, whatever it may be. And people tell me, oh, I smoked my pork butt for 14 hours. I'm sitting there going, good. What are you smoking at? 180?
Yeah.
But if that works for you, great.
Yeah, and some people think the longer the better, and what I found is that's not necessarily true.
It's done when it's done.
Yeah. I wrap my butts after a time because I don't want all that smoke for all that time on them. I wrap them so they can start steaming and start, doing their thing as a butt, and still, kind of gently get smoked, but it could definitely just be overpowered.
Like you add wood, all of a sudden you get a flare up of smoke and you can't get it down or whatever. And I've started cheating. I use a pellet cooker.
Oh, okay. I've heard some good things. I'm not gonna.
I love it. I can set it in the morning for 2:30. It'll hold temperature all day. By 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, my butts are ready to come off, so I'll pull them off, wrap them, throw them in a cooler just to sit there and rest for an hour or so, and then pull them out and pull them, and they're great. A great smoke flavor, and I'm all about the ease of it.
Sure, and that's one of the cool things about barbecue is once you got everything set, then you're just sitting back with the cold one, and then it's all about relaxing and having a good time with your family.
And I've been there where you're throwing the sticks in every hour, every 45 minutes, whatever, and it's great. It works, and there's some days that I do that because I enjoy it every now and then. But there's some days I just want to set it and not worry about it and go out there every hour, just double check, make sure my temperature's right where it should be, spray it down with my mop, and move on.
Right. Well, I think something else really cool about the pellet stove is getting the different kinds of wood. I've seen a lot of different kinds of pellets out there that can give you, almost like I've seen, I'm not a fan of it, but the Jack Daniels, and they're taking, I've even seen wine barrels that they've taken the oak and then made that into pellets. So, that would be kind of cool to get those kind of little nuances through your smoke.
You can pick up apple, hickory, mesquite, peach, pecan, walnut.
I think I saw alder wood, which
I've actually used alder.
How does that work? I just found out that you could smoke with that.
It's very mild, and it's not bad. It's a slightly different flavor,
right?
but it's very mild. I think it would work really well with a fish, like maybe a salmon or
something like that.
Something else, that really absorbs the flavor. But it's not bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to play with that. A friend of mine also has some orange wood that I'm gonna play with. It's from citrus, so I'm not sure how that's gonna work out. I'm gonna play with it.
Growing up in Nigeria, one of my favorite snacks was called suya. It's a meat they roast on a fire. It's like a kebab, and hopefully it was always cow meat or goat meat that we ate, but you never know. It might have been dog or something else.
It was meat.
But I've tried to remake it here, and I just can't get the same flavor. And I've been, sitting there thinking about why can't I get the same flavor? And then I go, I wonder if they use mango wood. Because mango trees are prevalent out there. And I'm like, I wonder if that's what they cook it on, and that's giving it the flavor that I just can't figure out what it is. So sometime I have to try to find some mango wood and try it.
Yeah, I think mangroves, they had them in Florida. I think that's a good place. Well, y'all should have swamps around there in South Carolina too, right?
Not mangroves, but mango, like the fruit.
Oh, mango. Okay,
mango.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, dig that. Wow.
So I'm like, I wonder if that's it, or maybe guava. Or a combination of the two.
Boy. That it would definitely add nuances, and I wonder if the wheels are turning now.
And these thoughts just pop into my head at work and stuff.
Right. Well, that's where the barbecue, fanatic comes out. You have some free time to think at work, and you're thinking about some smoke.
I'll be working on something at work, and all of a sudden I go, "Oh, that'd be good," and everyone's like, "What?" Like, if you made a bacon lattice, put hamburger in it with some salsa, rolled it up, and smoked it. Are you going to bring some in tomorrow?
Don't talk about it, be about it. So how long have you been doing the blog, Steve?
See, probably since about 2009, I think. I think that's when I did my first one. And it started off for, just for fun, Q for fun. And doing it just to kind of, as I started going through it and learning about it, to share with, what I was learning. And, actually 2010. That's January 21st, 2010.
Dig that.
And, that was the year I became a certified KCBS judge. And we actually went to a class with Troy Blackman. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He does a lot of stuff with Southern Living. He's a Southern Living grill chef, and he wrote the Southern Living Barbecue Cookbook.
Okay.
Which is a great cookbook, and the app is awesome, too, for the iPad. Yeah, that's when I started doing it, and just kind of said, let's start writing about this and see what happens, and found out about the Barbecue Brethren Forum. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's a great online forum for barbecuers, and you can go in there and ask anything you want about barbecue. Somebody will know the answer.
What was it again? Barbecue
Brethren. And I mean, they have guys on there that build their own cookers, and it's like they have a challenge to see who can build the biggest, the best, or the most, or
they have a guy down here that does the Hogs for the Cause competition, and he calls himself Lunchbox Fab at Twitter, and he makes all their grills, and he specifically makes one for butts, one for ribs, one for the whole hog. They are the ugliest goddamn grills in the world, but their team won grand champion last year. So,
they work.
Yeah, they work like a mofo. It's not the double insulated, where you got everything shiny and you got to polish it. Ugly pits, but they smoke like a beast.
Oh yeah, for one of my birthdays, after I started smoking, my wife talked to my brother-in-laws, and coming back from Africa, my mom had brought back a bunch of 50-gallon drums with stuff stored in them. Well, my one brother-in-law has a bunch of these at his house, and she talked them into making me not quite an ugly drum smoker, but the Texas grill, where it opens up at the top and it has a grill in there. And so she found the plans and got them over to my brother-in-law, and he fabricated everything. So now I have a Texas smoker sitting in the back.
Nice.
Out of a 50-gallon drum, and it's ugly, but it works.
I've seen some weird things turned into smokers. They've done refrigerators down here. They've, these Cajuns get creative.
We were at one competition, and I'm sitting there looking at this trailer, and I'm going, that's like an industrial refrigerator. Why do they have an industrial refrigerator? So I go up and talk to the guy. He goes, oh, it's a smoker. I'm like, no way. He goes, yeah, look. Opens the door, and sure enough, there's shelves in there for smoking, and he had set up the bottom with a water pan, and the heat would go underneath, and it was like an offset set, so that it heated up and then went up through the water pan, and it was pretty cool.
That's neat.
You can fit a lot of stuff in there. He goes, oh yeah. Let's fill it up tonight and let it go.
I'd like that. That's something I always find that I have problems with, is just space. And it always seems like you'd use a bigger pit or another pit, but you just try to roll through it.
Oh yeah, a bigger pit would be nice.
I would like something that could fit a whole hog on. That's something that I don't have yet. For Hogs for the Cause this year, we're going to do the old redneck cinder block and actually do our pig that way, and do it in between two fences and get it really crisp. It's not necessarily smoking it, but I don't think smoked pigs come out very well. Right. I think roasted pigs come out very well, because that way the skin has time to render and you get crispy skin. I don't know if you've ever smoked a pig.
Not a whole one.
It turns black, and the skin is rendered inedible at that point. It's really, really nasty. It's almost like the skin becomes the foil for all the meat inside, and kind of steams within the skin. But what makes a whole hog beautiful is getting that crispy, delicious golden brown skin. So I think we're gonna go the old Latino way and just do it right over the fire, and then in each pit, I think each pile we're gonna put wood on there, so it'll get the residual smoke through that.
Actually, this weekend I'm gonna be judging blues and barbecue here in Charlotte.
Okay.
And
we also have our Blues and Barbecue Festival this weekend in New Orleans. Cool. I wonder if it's together.
They last year, one of the local restaurants set up, and they built a cinder block pit right there in the parking lot and put a sand base on it and roasted their pig right in there, and that was awesome.
Yeah, I think that's going to be that's going to be the way to do it. These other teams are going to be out there with their whole hog roasters and stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, it depends on what I'm going to be putting in front of that judge. And if it's not the best goddamn barbecue I've ever done, then I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it half-assed.
Yeah. Yep. But, I've also started to think, if I can cook it on the smoke, or if it can be cooked in the oven, I can cook it on either the smoker or the grill.
if you can get it up, the temperature up high enough, for sure. Definitely.
I started playing with like sopapillas on the grill and stuff like that. I was like, oh, this is good.
Well, when I was coming up and I was a chef, and before I was doing the Pitmaster barbecue thing, I would come home every night and I would be on my grill. So I definitely feel you with that, and it's something that brings you back to the fire and brings you back. There's something about that smell. It's that first smell when you're lighting the pit, getting everything together, your family's around, you got a high life in your hand, and life seems good and perfect for a little stretch of time. And that's how barbecue makes me feel. That's the magic of barbecue to me.
got a couple hours where nothing can mess it up. You just hang out, let the fire do its work.
Right. And sometimes now it becomes, a job, and that's something I've started to notice more. And, I want to get back to that place where what started me doing the barbecue. It's not so much the rush of the time, hey, I got to get this done for this. To actually step back and say, hey, man, I'm cooking my own food. I'm supporting my family with barbecue, and stop and smell the roses. Sometimes I think, a lot of times we're just rushing for that goal line, and maybe we've already reached it if we just stop and look.
Yep, it's the process is as important as the final product. And the steps you go through to get there. Every time I grill or barbecue, I always learn something new. It's like, oh, well, maybe if I change this setting, or maybe if I add a little more of this, or take a little of this away, it'll be better the next time. Even though this time it's great.
Right.
It's, what can I do? And as you go through the process, you learn that stuff. And like, at work we do, well, I don't know if we'll still do it, but we've done chili cook-offs each. And 3 years in a row I've won, thank you. The first year I was like, okay, I'll just throw together a leftover pulled pork chili. So I did a black bean pulled pork chili, and everyone was like, oh, this is great. And so then I'm sitting there going, that was pretty good. What will it do next year? Let's see. Ooh, brisket. Brisket would make it even better with burnt ends in it. Well, the next year they decided to go Cajun. They're like, oh, it's right around Mardi Gras, so we're going to do a Mardi Gras theme, and we're going to do Creole and Cajun food. I'm going, I don't know how to cook Creole and Cajun food. So I ended up making a gumbo, and got some andouille sausage chicken, smoked it up, made the stock from scratch, made my roux, added in the Trinity in there with the celery, the onions, and what else is it? Garlic,
yep.
Yeah,
bell pepper,
and got that all in there, and it was awesome. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I could have just baked the chicken, but that's no fun. Because that smokiness just brings something to it, and it kicks it up a notch.
Yeah, that's called gumbo yaya down here, and it's my favorite gumbo. A lot of people like the seafood gumbos. I love that, just smoked chicken on andouille, and it's the best.
Yeah, you serve it over some white rice, and
yeah. Try it with potato salad sometimes. Gumbo with potato salad. That's a Cajun thing down here, and it's kind of cool to get the contrast of the cold potato salad and the hot gumbo. So try that. That's kind of cool too.
So, some good friends of ours, her family's from Louisiana, and so she'll go down there and come back. And one time she goes, "You guys ever tried boudin?" I'm like, "What?" She goes, "It's a sausage." So we're like, "No, come on over, we'll have some." And I'm sitting there going, okay, what is this stuff? It's this white, it looks kind of gross, but oh my gosh, that stuff's awesome.
Yeah. If you get the right bash, man, it is one magical thing. I like to put it on the grill and actually crisp up the skin, and and that's really good. Here you can just go to the convenience stores and they'll just have them ready, so you can get crawfish boudin, you can get your pork boudin, and it really is delicious. Boudin is one of those treasures that we have that a lot of people don't know about.
Like, they need to export that stuff.
It's old, it's what they used to do to just try to stretch shit, because they would put the rice as a filler. And then you had to use half the meat. If you're using rice and half meat, you're using half the meat, and you're stretching your meat even more.
That makes sense. It's like the whole idea behind smoking pork and stuff. It was a poor man's food.
Yeah.
Down here you hear stories about, the slaves would just hang it out by the fire, all day, and while the fire was cooking, doing other stuff, their nasty hunk of meat that the owners would let them have would sit there and get all tender and juicy, and it's like, wow, that's just genius.
I don't know if you saw the Anthony Bourdain special where he actually had to kill the pig here in New Orleans or Louisiana. They did a boucherie, and so that's how they would respect, a 250-pound hog. The whole community would come together and they're making boudin and crackling and blood sausage and it's a whole party for 18 hours at a person's house. And I'm sure they're drinking some sort of libation and to get through, but
homemade or otherwise.
Right. But I find it very communal and very family oriented. When you think of barbecue, even the concept of barbecue as a grilling with your family, it's just very, very communal, and people want to be a part of it. I'm sure you've had people, like you've said, if you bring up barbecue, well, where's mine? They want to share that. They want to because they know barbecue's something of passion. You're not going to get some frozen hamburgers and throwing it on the grill. You got to work for that shit.
Yeah. And barbecue, I'll decide, okay, this Saturday I'm going to barbecue, and I'll let friends know and say, hey, if you want anything cooked, let me know. I'm firing up a smoker. And sometimes they're like, oh, yeah, I'll bring over a brisket. I'll bring over a pork butt or whatever, and you do whatever you want to it. And what time do we need to pick it up? Or let some friends know, hey, we're going to cook out. You want to bring some sides? Oh, sure. We'll bring some sides over if you're making barbecue and ribs and whatever.
Everybody's ready for a barbecue. It doesn't matter when it is, what day it is. Barbecue is a great time. It sure is. Where can everybody find your blog, Steve?
It is Q for Fun, as in the number 4, fun.blogspot.com.
And that's also your handle on Twitter, if people want to follow you on Twitter?
Yes, it's Q for Fun.
Q for Fun.
Or Graphics Gibbs, because I have two Twitter accounts.
Right, I got a few myself. It's hard to keep them all tracked up sometimes.
Yeah, the Graphics Gibbs is more my personal / design account, and Q for Fun is more my blog, food, my grilling adventures, barbecuing adventures, or if I just get inspired one night to cook something. Like the other morning I made crepes with sauteed apples. And it was good.
That sounds tasty. Well, y'all go check out Steve's blog. He's a barbecue fanatic, and it's cool to hear somebody else's impression of such a great subject. I truly love it, and I know everybody else out there does too. We really appreciate you being on the show, Steve, and hope to have you again sometime. If you have anything going on with a competition or anything, just let me know. We'll get you back on here, and we'll talk about it.
Will do. Thanks again, Rob.
All right.
It's been a lot of fun.
All right, NOLA, y'all stay hungry, and we'll talk to you soon.